Um, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for signing up to help out with the Georgia Avenue Economic Development Special Committee from ANC 1E. Super excited to be working with you all. I'll go ahead and share my screen so we can see the agenda. Nothing super formal tonight. Mostly wanted to do some introductions of each committee member, talk about a little tool that I've been developing to get some Georgia Avenue data and understand what other data folks might want and go from there. And I see Eliza's here, so I'm going to promote Eliza as well. Okay, can folks see my screen?
Yes, I
Um,
can
is
anyway.
the text large enough or do I need to zoom in?
Make a little bit bigger.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, great. And I'm going to check one more time for attendees. Okay. All right, so I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. In terms of administrative matters, we'll first do a roll call. For folks who haven't been on an ANC meeting before, this is going to feel a little formal. Just try to follow Robert's rules as much as possible. But really, the goal is just to be communicative here. So we'll do a roll call, assuming we have a quorum, which we will at this point. We'll approve the agenda and go from there.
I'll
Um,
take notes, Josh, if you like. Mm.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Grant.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll conduct the roll now. Co-chair Audra Grant,
Here.
uh, committee member Chamie. I see him in the audience. I'll try promoting one more time. Um, he doesn't want to actually be on the panel. That's totally fine. Elliot Pallor.
Here, hello.
Thank you, Elliot. And please correct me if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name. Um, then Selma Patillo Sims.
Yes, it's pronounced Patillo. I know a lot of people like saying
Ah,
Patillo. It's not Spanish. Thank you.
well, thank you so much for joining us. Laura Herzog, I guess, is it Allie?
Yes. I go by Allie, but
Ah,
my legal name is Laura.
okay. I just saw a Laura sign up, so okay, cool. Good to know. Logan Stewart.
Here.
Hmm.
Logan Stewart is here. Patrick Nelson.
Yeah.
Patrick Nelson is here. Sarah Flinspatch.
Hi, and it's pronounced Flintspaw. The CH is silent.
Flinspa. Okay, great.
Mhm.
And there were a few other folks that signed up but are not here tonight, so I'm just going to run through their names in case I missed anyone in the roll call. Um, Daniel, who did not provide a last name, but I don't see a Daniel here. Terrence Hugh, Elizabeth Ramirez, Ha Hoa Hamano, and Nikki Shedrick.
Did you call Eliza's name?
Eliza's not a member of the committee, but
Okay.
or not a
Oh,
voting member.
that's right.
So
Okay. Thank you.
great.
All right.
So with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with 8 of 14 members, we have a quorum. All right. From here, we just need to approve the agenda. So first item is approval of the overall agenda. There will be the consent agenda, which there isn't anything on the consent agenda tonight. Any community announcements and presentations. So if folks have anything in particular that you want to do a quick announcement on, this is the right time for that. And then more official business. So introductions from each committee member, demonstrating Georgia Avenue data, project that I've been working on, just soliciting presentations of interest that folks might have from various agencies and stakeholders, any budget requests that we want to start thinking about for the fiscal year 2027 budget, and then any interim projects that we want to work on. As an example, Commissioner Grant and I have been talking about tree box beautification. That could be an option. Folks have also expressed interest in improving the Parkview sign that's on Georgia Avenue, putting banners up on Georgia Avenue. So things like that that you think might be of use, we can put in and discuss here. Are there any other topics that folks want to add to the agenda? Okay, I'm not hearing any. So this is where I'll say I'll accept a motion to adopt the agenda. For something like this.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you.
I move-
Commissioner Grant demonstrated perfectly. Finish your phrasing.
We'll move by unanimous consent to adopt the agenda.
All right. There's a motion by unanimous consent. Is there any dissent? Okay, the agenda is adopted. Are there any announcements folks want to make before we get into the introductions from each committee member? You can also make those announcements during those intros, but if there's anything in particular folks want to call out, I'm happy to hear it now. Great. We will jump into introductions. So the genesis of this committee really is that the ANC recognizes that, thanks to the work of people like Mr. Nelson, we have an ANC that is centered on Georgia Avenue. This is new as of last election cycle, so 2022, right? Before that, Georgia Avenue was split among several other ANCs, which meant that Georgia Avenue itself never really got the attention it deserved. ANC 1A was, the northern portion of Georgia Avenue, Parkview, and Columbia Heights, and it's hard to get cohesive vision for the entirety of the corridor when it's split among several different groups. So thanks to folks like Mr. Nelson, like I said, there was advocacy and redistricting to create a separate ANC, ANC 1E. So ANC 1E has existed for a few years now, and I've heard a lot of feedback from community members, and I feel this too, that Georgia Avenue hasn't really gotten the attention it deserves by the city in order to improve it and make it a place that people are excited to go to, that people want to live on. And so felt like it was time for us to take up some opportunities as a commission by creating the special committee. So I'm just going to walk through that resolution quickly that created the committee from the ANC. And this is we're good. Okay, great. Can everyone see the resolution? Okay.
Starting with
great.
the first whereas, yeah.
Okay. So the whereas clauses are just talking about, ANC 1E, the Georgia Avenue corridor, the importance of coordination among all stakeholders for any sort of strategic revitalization, and then the actual purpose and membership of the committee. So the key thing here is really the purpose, and this is what the ANC is charging us to do. So the committee shall, and I'm just going to read this out loud, study economic conditions, commercial vacancy trends, pedestrian activity, and business needs along the corridor. Identify evidence-based strategies to reduce commercial vacancies, increase foot traffic and evening activity, support small business stability and growth, develop policy and budget recommendations for consideration by the full commission, and engage with corridor stakeholders, including residents, business owners, property owners, and relevant district agencies. And any sort of recommendation that we have, our opinion as a committee is not binding, but if there's something that we want the commission to take up, we could pass a resolution or a budget request via this committee that would then be taken up by the full ANC. Any questions about the purpose before we just jump into the general introductions? Okay. So in terms of general introductions, Josh Jacobson, this is my second term as a commissioner. in the previous term, I was the chair of the Transportation and Public Spaces Committee, and I'm now the chair of the overall ANC. And I'll be co-chairing this with Commissioner Grant. And I live near the southern portion of ANC 1E near Banneker Pool. And let's see, my favorite thing about the corridor, I think, is honestly Banneker Pool because it is such a great destination to go to in the summer. We'll just say the fun fact is your favorite thing about the corridor. And one thing that you're hoping to get out of the committee, which I helped put together the resolution, so I think that's pretty clear, but want to hear what other folks are hoping to get out of the committee. I'll jump to Commissioner Grant next and we can popcorn from there.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Audra Grant. I am, well, I've lived in Parkview since 2002, 2003. I've been involved in the neighborhood and on activities on Georgia Avenue since I moved here. Was president of the Luray Warder Neighborhood Association, but more importantly, had the pleasure of being one of the co-founders of Georgia Avenue Thrive when it was the Lamont Street Public Safety Task Force. I was also on the first Georgia Avenue Main Streets Neighborhood Council and also responsible for writing the first grant. In part, being one of the authors of the grant that gave us the first Georgia Avenue Main Streets. And so not only is Parkview near and dear to my heart as a longtime resident who has seen it change dramatically and in positive directions, I believe Georgia Avenue is an important center of gravity for future change. And I think that the possibilities are very promising and endless as far as what Georgia Avenue can be. We've seen other corridors revitalize and grow and thrive. And I'd like to see this committee bring some of that dynamism to Georgia Avenue involving all of you. So I just love the fact that we're bringing all of these different voices to the table to make that happen. I think that's kind of my fun fact about Georgia Avenue is that there are so many different people and stakeholders that I think are really interested and dedicated to making this happen. And I look forward to working with all of you.
And
I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Flensbaugh, pronouns she, her. I've lived in the district for about 10 years, most of the time in Parkview, but with some stints in Columbia Heights. And I live on Park Place, just on the border of the ward. I work in homeless services by day, but I'm also an urban planning student by night. The focus on housing and economic development. So was really excited to hear about this opportunity. And I had previously shared with Josh a SWOT analysis that we had to do for class that I did on Parkview that included, economic factors and things like that. So I'm very excited to get to kind of have some practical experience on top of the academic. And I think my favorite part of Georgia Avenue is how you can walk or bus so easily up and down it and connect to other parts of it or connect to the rest of the city. And I'll pass it to Allie.
Hi, my name is Allie Herzog. I live on Newton Place. I moved about 2 years ago and not really sure what my intentions are vis-a-vis the committee. I just saw the advertisement in the in the newsletter that they send around and am interested in sort of getting involved in the neighborhood. Plan to be here for a long time. And my favorite thing is probably a tie between Yoga Heights. I go like twice a week and I love it so much. And all the cute coffee shops around, like Almond Cafe and Call Your Mother and Doubles. And there's like just so much. Yeah. Anyways, I will pass it to Pat Nelson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Nelson, and I am what I would consider a long-term DC resident. I moved here in 1985. I've lived in my house since 1993, so this is my 33 years of living here. Been very active in ANC and Civic Association, connections with university that's right across the street from me, and helped in development of a number of their parcels along Georgia Avenue. I won't go into great detail because I could talk for hours and hours about the stuff that I've done. And so if anyone has questions about what I did, I will certainly answer that. But I just love living here. Like I said, I've lived here for 33 years. I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of things that used to happen that didn't, like Georgia Avenue Day, which was a great experience for the community, has kind of gone. It was morphed into what they called Caribbean Festival, and then it got out of hand and was canceled by the city. There's just a lot of stuff that needs to happen along the avenue to reinvigorate it back to what it was in its heyday. So I'll stop there because, like I said, I could go on for hours. Oh, I need to press it to somebody. Logan Stewart.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm walking home still. I had a work meeting run late. My name's Logan Stewart. I live on Euclid Street, but I've also lived on Fairmont Street. I've only been in DC for a couple of years here, but I've loved living in the Georgia Ave area. I think probably my favorite parts of it are, I heard mention of some of them already, the Banneker, I would say the Recreation Center generally. I love the tennis courts and the track there as well. Doubles is a great spot, and then I really like the Hobart Street pocket parks as well. I don't know that I'm looking for anything in particular here, but kind of like Ali mentioned, I just saw this opportunity and have been looking to get more involved in the community. So I thought I would get involved in this. Let's see, I will pass it on to, is it Selma?
Hi, thank you. I hope my dogs don't interfere. They're sensitive to my voice. Hello, everyone. I'm Selma Patillo Sims, and I have lived in Washington, D.C. for 40 years, 18 on Capitol Hill and 22 on Morton Street in Parkview, the Parkview neighborhood. I first moved here in 2004 when my son was just a few weeks old. And I took pride in making sure there were trees on my street and utilizing the city to do what I could to make sure that the street stayed clean, the alley stayed clean, and questionable behavior within the neighborhood to make sure that would be cleaned up as best as I could do as a mom, and making sure there were nice walkways and making sure that the sidewalk was fixed for the elderly and making sure there were adequate speed bumps before I ended up serving on the charter school advisory committee. So I've been involved with my neighborhood. Those are my dogs, Jaja and Brooklyn, so forgive me. Um, I've been involved in the neighborhood, and I'm sorry, they see another dog, so I'll just stop here.
Oh, Selma, you're actually totally fine. Zoom is very good at cutting out background
Oh,
noise, and
good.
we can't
I
Okay.
hear the
can't hear
dogs
them.
at all.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. So I do remember when Audra was talking about the initiatives that took place in the city with regards to housing and with regards to school closing, the movement of Bruce Monroe, and also the Howard corridor. I've been involved in different smaller committees with that. Slow growth, but growth. I have the privilege of living across the street from Hook Hall. And so I've worked with the owners to have reasonableness when it comes to the noise, and I've been pretty effective with it. So I was honored to be asked to join this group, and it's nice getting, hopefully, to get to know you all and learn your experiences. I've been here for 22 years in a house that's 126 years old. So I'm here for the long haul for sure.
Thank you, Selma. And I think we have one more, Elliot. I don't think Elliot has gone yet.
No, hi everybody. I'm sorry, my camera's off. I'm also in transit unexpectedly this evening. But Elliot Polar here. I am on Rock Creek Church Road, also on the Ward 1, Ward 4 border, kind of looking out at Petworth, but I consider myself a Parkview person too. Um, I've been in the neighborhood for 3 years. I've kind of bounced around the district for the better part of about 5 years beforehand, and I gotta say my favorite part of Georgia Ave, Parkview area is definitely the sense of community and like neighborliness that I didn't really get in other parts of the city. I was on in Columbia Heights for a bit and Navy Yard and like the U Street corridor, and all of them are great and fun places to live, but I never felt really as close to my neighbors as I do um, up in this neck of the woods, which is just really refreshing, and it feels like a great sense of community. So I do see myself here for the long haul as well. I love it here. And just for my want to contribute to the neighborhood, I think like I and my friends, we are avid cyclists and just like pedestrians. And I think one of the things that concerns us a lot is safety, especially on Georgia Ave. Um, there are other parts of the city I think that do a really nice job with protecting pedestrian zones. I think of like the northern Logan Circle area or like 16th Street by um, Meridian Hill Park is good for cyclists. Um, I just want to be able to walk my dog or walk down the street or bike up the street with some friends and not constantly have to fear for my life or my friends' lives. So that's one of the main things. And then, like Selma just said, I think like the neighborhoods around here are really beautiful, and it's one of the great, like especially spring, just a beautiful time in the city. But we can always do more to make it a nicer place to live, and I hope we can contribute to that. So it's great to join you all, and you'll see my face next time. But again, I'm sorry I'm in transit.
It's all good. Thank you, Elliot. And then Eliza, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eliza Roche Robinson. I'm in my professional capacity as Councilmember Nadeau's Constituent Services Specialist. So I don't currently live in the ANC, but I am Howard University alum. So the ANC is very, very special to me. And in my capacity as a student, I've gotten to know it very well. And then now in my role, even more intimately. So I think overall, I really appreciate the community that I've been able to build here, in both of those capacities, and I really just appreciate it. But overall, I really want to see the development really happen in Georgia Avenue because it's a very special place. And I would agree that Councilmember Nadeau would say the same.
Thank you, Eliza. And thank you everyone for introducing yourself. Really appreciate it. I'm super excited to work with a group that is so passionate on making Georgia Avenue better. Because there's a lot that can be done to improve, but it's obviously already a great place for all of us. So in terms of remaining agenda items, I want to just walk through some data that I've been pulling together to try to better understand the corridor, get feedback on what other data would be helpful, and then I need to figure out a way to get you all access to this tool, and we'll go from there. So I've been putting together a Lower Georgia Avenue business tracker, pulling in data from a bunch of different places, Google Maps data, business data from the DC government, property data from the DC government, and trying to see it all in one place to get a sense of, where there might be challenges on the corridor. So if I just take a particular address, you can see, there's 3124 Georgia Avenue. Property owner is 3124 Georgia Avenue Enterprise LLC. You can see tax assessment, licensed businesses, Google Place data for the area, and 311 complaints if there's any 311 complaints related to illegal construction. So there's information like that. You can also filter to, I see something in the Q&A. Oh, okay. Adam, I did try to promote you, but I don't know. Let me try promoting you one more time, Adam. I thought maybe you weren't there. And if that doesn't work, I will just hit the allow to talk. Okay, cool. We do have Adam. Great. You're still muted, Adam, but if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself.
Is there a sound issue, maybe? Can't hear him. He's on mute. Yeah. Is he there?
He dropped a note in the Q&A that he wanted to
Sorry.
introduce himself.
I just got onto my porch. I was commuting home and I'm not used to being on Zoom on my phone. So I was like trying to toggle through it. So sorry. Yeah, I'm Adam Chamey. I'm lived in Parkview, I think for 15 or 16 years, first on Newton Place. Now I'm on Rock Creek Church Road. I'm an architect and urban planner, as well as a visual artist. And I was excited because I've done small area plans before in my professional capacity and mostly on the urban design side, but I've worked with economists and transportation folks. And I've done that work in DC and Chevy Chase and Ward 7 and Pennsylvania Avenue Southeast. Did it in Congress Heights, and then I think Mount Rainier, and then 6 places in Fairfax. And so I want to bring all of the knowledge and thoughts there and see if I can help in, here in Parkview, which I know and love. So thanks.
Thank you, Adam. Excited to have you on another ANC committee. And I see Hahua joined.
Hi.
But, oh, you're there. Great. Did you want to take a moment to introduce yourself too? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Sorry, just wrapping up dinner.
Oh, totally fine. You don't have to introduce yourself in this moment. So jumping back to this tool, okay. Jumping back to the tool, you can see vacancy data at a glance. So if a place is marked as vacant according to DC government, then they have a little gray dot instead of a blue or green dot. There are obviously going to be some issues with this data. It doesn't handle mixed use super well yet because a lot of these businesses would really be business and residential. Other interesting things that I've been pulling down for it are looking at the different owners of addresses. So you can see, ZP Georgia LLC owns 5 different addresses. One interesting way to extend this data is to look at the addresses for the LLCs. So if folks aren't aware, there are a lot of locations on the corridor that are owned by an LLC. The general reason for that is that it helps reduce risk for whoever owns the LLC. So if anything happens with the building, then the risk is stuck to that LLC and not the overall actual owner of the LLC. So that is a way that people try to de-risk some of their property ownership. Folks on here can correct me if there's a better way to explain that, but that's like the gist of it. And then from there, you can see how many. So there'll be like an LLC that owns a building, and then sometimes folks will have different LLCs own different buildings nearby, but they actually are all owned by the same person or the same group. So one way to try to figure out which LLCs are owned by the same person is to look at the addresses, the mailing addresses for those LLCs that are in DC government data. So in this case, you can see there are 6 LLCs that have a mailing address of 2 Wisconsin Circuit Suite 1050 in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and that these are the addresses associated with it. I'm not quite sure how to use this data yet, besides if there are, institutional issues, and maybe we want to reach out to some of these LLC owners because maybe there's something that we want to partner with them on improving the corridor. And absentee data, that's more around vacancy information by state ownership. Walkability that looks at the corridor on the even and the odd side, so you can see walkability gaps. So in this case, near the 3500 block, there are 6 vacancies in a row, which folks probably aren't the most excited to walk past 6 vacant buildings in a row, especially late at night.
How does
So
one
maybe
define walkability, Commissioner Jacobson? How's that usually?
this is. I didn't have a better way to frame this. This is more around sequential vacancies.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Basically, the idea is if there's a bunch of vacancies in a row, that area of the street is probably not going to be lit up as well as an area with fewer vacancies, and so people might not feel as comfortable walking through it.
Sometimes we
Thank you.
call that kind of active retail frontage versus inactive. And then, spillover is people don't want to walk by it, but it also sometimes has other bad things happen too. So,
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Retail frontage, that is a good term to know. See, I'm learning, so I'm going to write that down. So I'm not expecting, folks to have deep thoughts on this, but if there's other data associated with the corridor, I wanted to just get folks to start thinking about that. If there's data that we'd want to incorporate into a tool, I'm going to try to spend some time over the next couple of weeks figuring out a way to make this tool available to you all, since it's just available on my home network right now. But any initial thoughts or reactions to what folks would like to see here?
I have one thought which may be wildly ambitious, but length of vacancy data might be useful if that was the kind of thing that was potentially available. Maybe it's like
kind of. I didn't get to that tab. I didn't get to that tab, but yes, it is not something that I've found to be generally available, but you can infer it by looking at property tax rates. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect, but as an example, like this one is an example where I think my data is wrong in terms of guessing the vacancy. But if you see a large jump in the property tax rate, then that usually indicates that there's either a significant improvement or a vacancy. But if it's currently vacant and there was a large jump, then it was probably just going vacant at that time. So an example here would be there was a 200% increase in the property taxes of 2730 Georgia Avenue in 2024. I'm actually not sure what's at 2730 Georgia Avenue. That might be the Oliver. So yeah, this is part of my challenge with not wanting to put this on a public website, because I don't know that the data is super accurate, and it'd be good to have other folks looking at it too, and it's not just me making guesses. But theoretically, the Department of Buildings should have that vacancy data too, so we could ask them to see if they have length of vacancy for different addresses on the corridor. Commissioner Grant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I apologize. I should raise my hand. I
Okay,
apologize.
no, go ahead, please. Okay.
I was wondering, in terms of those lots, is there any way to know if it's actively going to be developed or if it's just vacant? Like, I'm not sure if we could have that information, but it would be nice to know what is going up, what's in the process of being developed, or are they waiting for permits within our boundaries? And what would that be? Would it be, a condo building or a restaurant? I'm not sure if we could gather that information. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is where the work of the committee becomes super useful because that sort of information might be available online somewhere. There might be permits pulled. It's also possible that the developer or the owner of the property has some plans to develop it, but interest rates are high, so maybe they're waiting for interest rates to fall. So that's the sort of work where doing outreach to those property owners from the committee could be valuable because we can get a better understanding of what those plans are and if there are ways to help move them to do that development or to make the space usable in the near future. And Commissioner Grant, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson, this is a great database. It's great start. And I think it's really awesome to be able to visualize what's going on Georgia Avenue. I'm wondering if it's worth including where some criminal incidents might take place or some of that activity might take place, just so that we can know if there's certain centers of gravity that we should be concerned about and maybe working with MPD on. So I know at one point it was Lamont in Georgia, right? And then at one point it was up by Braxton's, especially last summer. So I'm wondering if there's some way that we can maybe overlay some of that activity on Georgia Avenue so that we can make sure that we're on top of what's going on and how it relates. If there's certain businesses that are more vulnerable and at risk.
That's a great idea. Sarah?
Yeah, I put one comment in the chat, but Commissioner Grant's comment also made me think about traffic data, traffic accidents where pedestrians and cyclists have the most issues with cars might be interesting to overlay, or if this area were developed, that might be an issue. And then in the chat, I put curious about the physical conditions of the buildings. I know a lot of them are not necessarily in a shape where they could be rented out right now. So maybe that's like a filter or something that can go with these properties if they would be ready to go or if they would need significant rehabilitation in order for someone to actually do something in them.
Great ideas. Anyone else? Awesome. So I'm not sure that I'll get to it this week, but I should have time next week to figure out a way to get this online in a more secure fashion. So in terms of other data that folks would like to see, I think Commissioner Grant, yours can basically be summed up as crime hotspots. Sarah, you mentioned traffic data. I think those two can be automated and there are data sets that already exist, so that those are pretty feasible. In terms of Selma's idea for what's in the process for being developed or Sarah's idea on condition of the buildings, I'm not sure that there'd be anything automatic that we could get for those, so that would require more manual effort from the committee if that's something that we wanted to pursue.
For the for the age of the buildings, there's a data set that's year built that DC has in its GIS database, and they update it whenever there's been a recent permit. It's not, foolproof and it's not perfect, but sometimes you can pull from that and it pretty immediately, if you separate it by decade or whatever, you get an idea at least of a building that's older versus newer, which sometimes implies, if it's super old and there hasn't been a permit in a long, long time, that it's not doing well, but sometimes people have maintained them very well over time. So, you have to kind of layer it with some qualitative looks as well. But that's a good one. And then I think with the traffic data one, making sure to add in bus stops, locations. And I know a lot of those moved recently, because I think that's also kind of an economic generator. And, and it might be good to know also where the old ones were, because there's all these vacant little signs and benches and stuff. But yeah.
Thank you, Adam. If you have a link to that GIS data set, that would be super helpful. If not, I can do some more poking around.
I'll look for it.
Anyone else? All right. Well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Is there any way to get the hours that the businesses are open to get a sense of like, do we have more daytime business activity or nighttime, and what types of things might be good to fill in?
Yes. Do I have it in here? I do. Would you want some sort of flag that's like it's open in the evening versus daytime, or what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking about how like some blocks have a lot of bars, some blocks have like coffee shops. So understanding like, is this more of a daytime block or a nighttime block? And there's theories that you want all blocks to have activity, through all hours or things like that. So just getting a sense of like what's open during the day and what's open at night.
Yeah, so I already have it pulled in, which is great, because then it would just be a matter of filter. I realized I wasn't sharing my screen when I pulled this up, but yeah, okay, cool. That should be pretty feasible too. And I like the idea about capital bike share stations, though. I think there's 2 on the corridor itself, and so I guess would you want to see ones that are like within a block of the corridor?
Sure. That just came to mind when Adam was mentioning bus stops as a way people come in.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, one on Morton and one on Columbia, I think.
Oh, yep. There's, okay, 3. Morton, Columbia, and then one further down here. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, we can get that added in too. I'm going to wait like 10 seconds longer to say anything else, and then I see Patrick came off mute.
Josh, on this thing that you have here, I'm trying to formulate how I'm going to ask this question. What are the boundaries that we're talking about? Is it just the ANC boundaries, or how are we tracking what part of Georgia Avenue we're doing, and where is that? Is that somewhere on here to say here's where we are? I mean, I know what the boundaries of the ANC is, but is that what we're just sticking with?
Okay, so I guess there are 2 ways to interpret the question. For this business tracker, I probably shouldn't call it business tracker, but this tracker, it's from Berry Place up to slightly outside of the ANC. Really, this is like the district bridges area, so up to Kansas Avenue down to Berry Place. For the committee as a whole, I think we can focus on the ANC, but the goal is that we would do something that would help revitalize the corridor as a whole. So if there are any budget requests, then what are the things that might help more broadly? I think it makes sense to try to include Ward 4 in that, because then there are 2 council members that have buy-in to want to help, right?
I'm okay with that, but I think I would suggest that you go down to the end of 1E, which goes down to Florida Avenue, not Barry.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't remember why I ended up choosing this address, honestly. But yeah, I can get that.
There's a whole lot of stuff that's going to be happening south there in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And then the other point, which I'll have to do a little bit of looking to give you a concrete answer. There is a report that DOB does that lists all of the current and in-process permits. And I don't know whether we can get them to do, I've seen it for the whole city, but I've also seen it broken down into wards. I don't know whether we can get them to do it just on the avenue itself, but that is a way of tracking what buildings are potentially having things done to them currently or will have things done. And there's a lot of property, I'm sure Audra will attest to this, that there's a lot of properties along the avenue that have been vacant for a long, 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 long time. And probably will have nothing done until somebody pokes them and says, we're going to take it away and you don't have it anymore, which it probably isn't going to happen anytime soon. But there's a lot of property that has either been picked up by a developer and is just sitting on it, or has been sitting for years. I mean, I know for a fact from myself, when we were working on the task force for the development of Georgia Avenue, we did the same kind of thing that you did here. And there was a lot of property that had been empty for a long, long, long time, and owners were just not going to do anything with it. So that's an issue that I think once we get our head wrapped around what's really vacant and gonna come up versus what's sitting there, to have some way to argue to get something done with them, because that's the only way you're gonna get the avenue really revised.
Yeah. And is this the report that you're referring to, Patrick? The building permits report?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't figured out really how to incorporate this because in some sense it can be quite noisy. Like, there's a plumbing and gas piece.
This list, if it's the same one I'm thinking of, does everything, anything that gets pulled. So even if there's a little tiny thing to it, but I think it's a helpful tool in the sense of if there's stuff on Georgia Avenue, you'll be able to zero in, relating back to the question that was asked about development and what's happening. Big time projects, like when Oliver came out of the box, that was something that we could follow very quickly. And all other property that's going to be done by the university down south, we can follow and we're involved. But all these individual properties are really a lot more work has to be put in to figure out, because they can do it on their own. They don't have to get any input from anybody. In the sense of, they can go downtown, get a permit and do the work, and they don't have to let the community know what they're doing. Versus a real construction project like Oliver, where they had to have input from the community on.
All right. Anything else on the Georgia Avenue data? Otherwise, we can jump into other topics. Okay. So wanted to just start a conversation around any sort of presentations or data sets that you might want to see during this committee. If there are stakeholders that you'd like to get a presentation from, if there are government agencies that you'd like to get a presentation or data set from, wanted to just start brainstorming on what those might look like and schedule those conversations out. So, this meeting was meant to be a little bit more informal with introductions to the committee members and just some brainstorming. But I suspect for future meetings, we'll want to have, Howard University, the Main Streets program, groups like that involved in the conversations and bringing their expertise to the discussion. So wanted to see if there are any other groups like that folks wanted to make sure we're including.
I'd like to see DC Office of Planning's Ward 1 neighborhood planner. They usually have one or two people assigned to each ward that are supposed to dig down on the details. They probably have all sorts of maps and resources and, other studies that we don't even have no idea about that maybe even underway in the background. And so it'd just be good to kind of get a download from them.
It's a great idea.
Maybe like I don't know what the agency would be, but if there's like whatever the DC agency is that's in charge of like sort of like street cleaning and trash maintenance and that kind of thing, like maybe. I feel like that's like a sort of persistent issue. And I don't know how the like, how those resources get allocated. I'm sure it's very contentious and complex, but
DPW.
Now, just to piggyback on that, my alley was just disgusting. It was filthy, and I had to keep calling 311 to kind of get regular cleaning done. And there are certain times of the year there is no street cleaning. And then there's a time where it starts and it runs. But as far as the alleys, I had to just keep calling until it became a regular to keep it clean. And of course, I had to complain. Not only did that draw rats, more rats, but it was just it just took persistence in calling. But it would be to have great to have more of a collection of people interested in keeping the streetscape clean and trash. I think, yeah, for sure. I totally agree on that, especially along Georgia Avenue.
Elma, just so you know, your advocacy is good on your own alley, but the DPW does not have a regular schedule of cleaning alleys at all. The only way you get them cleaned is to do what you did and call and bitch and moan. They just don't, the alleys are not a priority to them unless somebody calls about an issue. And the reason they do that is because they'll say that the machinery they have doesn't fit down an alley. And some of the alleys are very small and some of them they're all different sizes and different turns and different accesses and inputs. So they don't do a normal street cleaning per se, like an alley cleaning. They have enough trouble cleaning the streets, let alone trying to do the alleys, to be honest with you.
I appreciate that because I lived on Capitol Hill for 19 years, and of course, there was never a problem with the alley cleaning. So, yeah, it's been challenging here, but I think my alley is the worst alley in this neighborhood. It's the filthiest, but thank you for that. It has taken a lot of persistence.
I don't know that you want to start a competition there, Selma, because Logan, Patrick, and I have quite a bad alley down here. um, let's see. Oh, Eliza, DSLBD and DOB. Those are good call outs.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think also district bridges, right? Because they manage the current Main Street for George Avenue. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were talking about earlier what to do with the data set of property owners. Um, I don't know that we probably don't have the capacity to do a true small area plan, but I know I've done similar things where um, we did for like Chevy Chase's economic development or out in Fairfax. Um, we would do interviews with property owners, particularly ones that had a lot of real estate in a commercial district, and like non-judgmental, just sort of like, hey, what are you thinking about your property? What are your challenges? What are your, have you had trouble finding renters? Is that a big thing? Is it, you know, you're concerned about crime? Are you concerned about trash? And just start, and, we often would spend an entire year or 6 months usually interviewing and really getting into the depths of what the property owners' struggles are, I guess, and particularly the ones who had a lot of vacancies or who were adjacent to vacancies if we couldn't get to the ones who were, hidden away. Um, but I'm not sure how to use it for us, but that would be the way, like if I was at work, I would be like, okay, data set, great, I have the address. I'm gonna cold call them or, do what I need to do. But maybe there's a way that we can do something a little bit more you know, lower impact or like lower, not something as aggressive as a 6 month to a year interview process, but more of a maybe a poll or I don't know, some sort of email or letter or something just to find a way to engage them and get their, um, you know, kind of what's been going on with them in general and get some clues.
And that is actually a great segue to budget requests. So this line item, my thought process here is there are larger budget requests that we might want to go to the district government with. I think everyone's probably heard that our budget is not looking great this year, so it might be difficult to get something into this particular budget cycle. But any sort of budget request might take years of advocacy anyway. So starting what we can now, so that if we don't get anything from the budget this year, maybe we can get it a year from now or 2 years from now. So I'm not expecting folks to have specific ideas in this moment. If you do, great, but um, something for us to brainstorm on because this is a great piece for the committee to work on. The ANC also has quite a large sum of funds at this point. We're up to, I think, 55 grand. And it's growing because we're not finding too many things to spend money on. And I'd love to be able to use that money in ways to make Georgia Avenue better. We give out grants to businesses for events and other things, but we're limited in how those grants can be spent. So one potential option would be to, if there's some sort of report that we'd want to hire a consulting firm to produce, we don't have a ton of money to get a great report, but if there's like a report that we could get for like 30 grand or something, that might be something that the ANC is willing to fund. Sorry, I've spoken a lot there, and I see Commissioner Grant has her hand up, but would love to hear people's feedback on that piece.
Yeah. I'll just wait until if anybody has any feedback on your comment, Josh. No.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately was like funding a small area plan, but also George Avenue had one in DC's mind not that long ago. I think it would be something we'd have to really push for, and it would probably take some time because there's other main corridors in the city that never got one at all. I think when was George Avenue's one? Like it was probably like 2010, which has been a long time, but you know, but still, I think that's something to definitely advocate for and push for because at least it puts city planner resources on it, and and it would be a budget to kind of focus on it. They often, I know at least from my experience, usually they do it when a council member has been really pushing for them for some time, and then often when it aligns with the mayor's larger goals. So like in Chevy Chase, the reason they got one was the new library coming in that was going to be a huge expenditure. And then also Janice and Ward 4 just really pushing for it, and constituents in Chevy Chase and Congress Heights, they got it and got a lot of investment and investigation, mostly because St. Elizabeth's was having massive redevelopment. So anyway, just food for thought as we like think through ways to push for attention. But yeah, small area plan for one thing would be my.
And just out of curiosity, since you have a lot of work experience here, is there like any sort of report that you think would be valuable that you would think the ANC should try to fund
I
or?
don't know. The funny thing about DC is in Virginia, they outsource a lot of this to consultants. DC does a lot of the work in-house, like way, way, way
Mm,
more work in-house than other nearby, but Prince George's County doesn't do very much in-house either. And so it's a little confusing to me what would be possible, what is not, but I'll ask some of my friends that work in DC government or in, urban planning work in DC and be like, hey, how did y'all do an economic development study? Because usually they do that economic analysis in-house. So I don't know. I'll do some research.
thank you. Sorry, Audra, you've been waiting patiently.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Commissioner Jacobson, you mentioned earlier how we were working with one of our residents who was interested in populating the doing plantings in tree boxes on initially Warder Street, but then we had the idea to maybe expand that effort to the tree boxes on Georgia Avenue to contribute to beautification of the avenue, which is something I'm personally interested in because I love gardening, but I'm also interested in beautification of Georgia Avenue more generally. So if there are ANC funds for that, I think that would be a really good low effort, high impact project that would probably generate a lot of interest because people like to do those things and it invests them in the neighborhood as well. In addition, Patrick is an arborist. He knows the native plantings. I think there would be a lot of interest in doing that from the neighbors. Another potential effort that maybe the ANC could fund would also be maybe banners along Georgia Avenue. I know some neighborhoods have those really nice banners on the lampposts, and perhaps we can, do a contest among artists in our area to, whoever gets, the most votes, gets the banner design, those sorts of things. And then finally, not so much a funding effort. I think it would be nice, and again, this is low effort, is to let businesses know that this commission exists and also maybe let them know if, in fact, there is a camera program that they can participate in to help them, identify, just put cameras on buildings to help improve public safety on the corridor. So it's kind of a mixed match of things, but that was top of mind in terms of funding for those couple of activities.
I just want to piggyback and say thank you so much because in my notes I had cleanliness and beautification of Georgia Avenue and a new Park View sign to welcome folks. In terms of living here, we want people to be attracted to where we live and to have
Yeah,
families come in. And you're right, I love to garden. And I think in some
great.
neighborhoods you see where there's a collection of neighbors to say, we're going to commit to at least having, this is a main artery driving down Georgia Avenue, and it would be great for them to see that. So thank you so much. We're on the same page for sure.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh, and I just wanted to ask before I go, because I do have to leave. How often are we going to meet?
I wanted to ask this group this. I think we should meet at least monthly, but I'm open to meeting more frequently. It just depends on what folks' schedule looks like. I imagine that, maybe we want to take a few weeks before the next meeting so we can invite key stakeholders to it. And then as budget season is ramping up, maybe then folks would want to meet every other week if there are things that we want to iterate on quickly. But would love to hear feedback from others. And the idea is, not everyone would have to come to every meeting. We probably just want a brain trust of folks that we can bounce ideas off of as we're trying to iterate on anything that might need to go to council.
Like monthly seems to be at least the
Great.
consensus among this
We will do
group.
monthly then. So I'll work on another poll to find a time that works for folks generally. Might need some flexibility because the group is rather large, but that's good. And then the one idea that I had there, Audra, I love the idea of beautification. My challenge is there's so many tree boxes, so we need to figure out a way to either triage or to get more volunteers.
Yeah.
But one thing that we could do to potentially get more volunteers would be print out a bunch of flyers and then use the volunteer capacity that we have to drop off flyers at as many addresses as we can in the ANC, and just like tell people about the newsletter for the ANC generally, and then tell people about some beautification efforts. So if there's like we want to do like a big beautification day mid-June or something, we could have a simple flyer that says like, hey, sign up for the ANC newsletter. Also,
Absolutely.
we're organizing beautification for June 16th or something.
Absolutely.
Because if we can get
Yeah.
a large group of people, then it's obviously a little bit easier than 10 people trying to beautify every tree box on Georgia Avenue nearby.
Sure. Yeah. You can use Facebook page. Parkview has a Facebook page, our constituents, and there's also Georgia Avenue Thrive, which is a grassroots neighborhood organization. They love to do stuff like that. So they're a great resource as well. So I think, yeah, I think there are a lot of ways. And Wangari, I see somebody in the chat mentioned Wangari Garden. That's a great idea. High schoolers. Yes, 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 that's great.
Are you a high
Wonderful
school teacher
ideas.
or?
I have a high
No, you're good.
I have a high schooler who is behind their community service hours.
I just have two quick comments in line with what you guys were just talking about. I'm certainly in favor of tree boxes. I do my own personal one, but I think it's important for us to make sure that we understand that there is a DC law that requires that you can't put a whole lot of growth in besides the trees that are in there. So you could beautify the box, but you're not supposed to be putting flowers and bushes and all of that in there. There's a rationale behind that. So yeah, beautifying the boxes and putting in mulch or barriers around the edges or edging or whatever makes perfect sense, but just be careful about how you expand on what exactly you're going to do to the tree boxes. And then
Yeah, we need to get some clarity on that. I was just talking to the OANC about that, and they've actually funded efforts with other commissions that have put plantings in tree boxes. So I don't know if it's certain kind or if it's on a certain corridor. We do need to get some clarification on that, Patrick, to
I just
see
want to
what
make sure that we
those.
don't go crazy
I
and
think you're absolutely right. Yeah, we do need to get some clarification. So that's one perspective, but
and then
we'll certainly do research on that.
I just want to give just a little bit of feedback to Selma's point about the Parkview sign. I'm dating myself here, so bear with me, folks. That sign has in years, I don't know exactly how long ago, I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago, was a huge, and I mean huge with a W, big W, controversy. Who put it up? Whose property is on? Who was responsible for repairing it? Whether it should have been put up at all in the first place. So we have to be very careful about whether or not we address that and how we address it and make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's because it got into a legal fight last time.
Maybe we could have another location.
Yeah.
We've improved the streets so much in other areas, and it's certainly open for discussion, but it doesn't have to be that area. It would be nice to have a lovely, lovely sign, a more updated sign. But thank you. I appreciate that thought process so much.
I think
I don't know
Sarah's
who.
had her hand up for a while.
Thanks. I just wanted to come back to the discussion about budget requests or things to go up to council. And I'm wondering if, excuse me, sorry, I have a bit of a cold. If there is some way we can use the money available through the ANC to do some of the research like Adam was mentioning that could inform policy recommendations like small business grant programs or something. If we are able to find out, why businesses are vacant or why they may not stay in a property as long, if we can make recommendations up for district-wide things that could happen, things that like obviously we can't pay for because we wouldn't have enough money. But I'm wondering if there's a way for us to think a little more long-term in what we do to help inform the building of projects at the district level.
Thank you, Sarah.
Sarah, are you talking about grants?
Yeah, like maybe there's something we can learn about why there are so many vacant properties, like what are the barriers, and perhaps what we learn can inform, the development of a new program through DHCD or something like that, whether it's a grant program or something. I'm just thinking about the physical conditions of some of the buildings. Maybe that's the reason why, and they don't have the money to rehabilitate the property. So maybe that's something we would learn, and then we could suggest a new program that the district could pull together that would benefit Georgia Avenue, but also potentially other parts of the city.
Okay, Josh, I will look through my emails. I know I have it somewhere because we had this discussion since I still sit on as an advisor on that 1B committee that I was sent a link for district government agencies and how to get grants through different agencies. So I'll look through my emails and see if I can find that, and I'll forward it to you so you can. It kind of goes directly to what Sarah's talking about, how to get money to do special projects through the district.
Yeah, and even if we find out that the businesses that could benefit from those aren't aware of them, that's the type of stuff that I think could be really beneficial for district agencies to know.
And there is other programs that we've done in the past, and I don't know with this budget whether they're still going to be in effect, but we had a whole, and Audra may also remember this, but we had a whole facade improvement grant process that we did along Georgia Avenue, and I was able to get a grant for $200,000 through a project that I did that we gave directly to the businesses to do what Sarah you're talking about, fix their fronts, put new, paint their doors, all that kind of stuff. And it was a grant that we got from the city. The money I got was through something else, but we did it through the city, and we did about 4 or 5 different buildings along Georgia Avenue where we completely redid the front of the building to make it more eye appealing from the street. So that kind of goes. But I'm going to look and see if I can find that to send to Josh to have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's other things we could learn too, like are developers just holding the properties vacant until they decide it's worth it? And then we could recommend things like vacancy taxes or things like that encourage economic development based on what we're learning about what's going on Georgia Avenue.
Yeah, I think, I like this idea of kind of this needs assessment, but also really deeply engaging the community on it. I mean, maybe a small funding might just be a charrette or kind of like a gathering of some sort, or, where we bring together local business owners at minimum. And, in District Bridges and these other nonprofits that work on the corridor, maybe a Howard person, and just really to break down on what their biggest, needs are. And it might be something as simple as they're like, oh yeah, we all need to coordinate and have a restaurant event once a month. And now that we're all in the room together, we're coordinating through District Bridges, or we're coordinating through the ANC. Something surprising may come out of that can then inform the branded signs we put on the street poles, right? Like there might be some way to kind of link the needs to something bigger and broader. So yeah, I love this.
Yeah, it's a great idea. In terms of next steps for that, Patrick, you're going to send me some of the resources that you have. We can go from there. And everyone should have everyone's email at this point. I'll start up another thread just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And Patrick, you can just reply back to that larger thread with everyone on it so that everyone has it.
Certainly.
And I know it's getting a little bit later and folks probably want to hop off soon. So I just wanted to call out something that Eliza's been pointing out in the chat regarding Bruce Monroe. So some of the funding for Bruce Monroe, there is a budget gap with Bruce Monroe in terms of the amount of money they need due to some financing changes, which means that Bruce Monroe, under the current state, won't be funded to break ground until, was it 2030, Eliza?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay. So best thing for us to do is to advocate for addressing that in the budget. And that would be underneath the Committee of Housing. So I'm going to sign up to testify, but if other folks are free, this should be DHCD. So that'd be on Tuesday, May 12th at 12 p.m. And I can send out a link for that. And if folks don't have time to actually testify, you can always just send in written testimony. But I think delaying Bruce Monroe even further will mean that the corridor is going to suffer even longer because there's going to be some great work being done there. And unsurprisingly, it all ties back to work that Patrick did at some point a couple decades ago.
There's also, Eliza, and you can look into this. You don't need to give an answer because you probably don't know it right now, but you need to ask Brianne what's going on with the park development, which is separate from the Bruce Monroe, I hate that word, development site. That's under new communities and that's housing, but that lot was subdivided through a lot of work from community input. And half of that is supposed to be made into a park, and the park was supposed to be done through DC funding. Has nothing to do with the housing, and it was supposed to be done before the housing was done. And there was supposedly, not that long ago, a meeting supposed to be started through Brianne's office to get the community involved in the planning of that, and it hasn't gone anywhere. And for not to sound like a pain in the butt, but somebody who worked really hard on that whole Park Morton project and the Bruce Monroe site, to have it still lingering. We had to deal with the lawsuit. We had to deal with the deferment of how they were doing Park Morton proper and subdividing that. And this park was something that we really advocated to get done separately. It's not owned by the developer. It's still owned by the city. That was through advocacy on behalf of the community. They were going to give the whole site to the developer, and we fought tooth and nail to have that site remain as part of a park. And nothing's been done with it. So if you could find out some more information on that from Brianne and see where we are on that, I would personally like to see if we can get that moving again.
Absolutely. I can follow up. Thank you for sharing that.
Again, I spoke with DPR a couple weeks ago, and they said they're planning later this fall, but it'd be good to have the council member follow up with them too, just to put pressure on them and make sure that they commit to that. Because I think I heard last year, and I don't want it to become next fall next year.
That's exactly, you're hitting right on the nail there, Josh. It's typical, I'm not trying to be mean here, but typical DC stuff. They say 2 weeks and then it gets into half a month and then a year and then we go on. And this has been going on for like 6 or 7 years. And so we need to keep pushing that and greasing that wheel so that it gets done.
Yep. All right. Any other topics that folks, I'll go for it.
I just wanted to introduce myself since it's the end and it's quiet at my house now.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't real and just the discussion around Bruce Monroe just brought me back to when we moved here. We moved here in 2008, and they were just tearing down Bruce Monroe. And so have been here since. Both my kids are here, and they go to school around. And then, yeah, I'm a small business owner, but not on Lower Georgia Ave. It's hard to find out where any of the places are, but would love to be there. Also a Fed. Yeah, became a business owner during the furlough. And do a lot of data work, technology. Love the app. It's so cool. I'm excited to to dive into it and see more of the data that everybody has contributed. And yeah, I wanted to just echo everyone's thoughts about kind of getting the community together and telling us, having them say what it is that's difficult for them. It's just like how we approach technology projects in government as well. And so it is just like we know like what some of these are from the data, but I think it'll be loud and clear like what it is that the businesses are both having trouble with and what they enjoy. I think that there's always like, what are we doing right? And let's do more of that. It is another kind of like principle that keeps us going when we're dealing with years and years of banging our heads against the wall of the same kind of government types of bureaucracy and red tape. There's still some joy in what we do, and it's like hearing from the people and why they're still here and still vested in the neighborhood. So long-winded answer. I'm on Park Place, right across from Wangari, so I feel very lucky to see for Sarah and their team to keep that growing. It's such an awesome resource to the neighborhood, and so thank you.
Thank you, huh?
No.
Any other closing thoughts? I guess do Mondays generally work for people? Because maybe we try to do a Monday in May, and if it's meh, then I'll just do another poll. I think Ha's nodding her head to another poll. Cool. Okay, I will do another poll.
Mondays are awful in general for
Fair.
me, but if it works for everybody else, I will do what I can. But yeah,
yeah, I'll do a poll and see where other people land, and we can go from there.
Yeah.
And I think you told me that before, Sarah, about Mondays in class, so thanks for the reminder. Cool. Well, really appreciate it, everyone. Thanks everyone for spending time on a Monday to chat about Georgia Avenue, and Audra and I will clean up some of the notes and send them out. So thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it, and hope you have a good rest of your night. Looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Until the next time.
Bye.
Bye.